So listen, we're getting to know each other, you and I, and at this juncture in the podcast, it's good for you to know the many ways in which I am an outlier. One, I'm a writer. We step outside the scenes a lot. We observe, what have you. I am black and gay. Those two things I think you get. But the thing that you might not know about me is that I am a hopeless nerd. If you need any evidence to prove that I'm a nerd, look no further than the fact that as a child, I used to force the kids in my neighborhood and my cousins and siblings to play school. And this is playing school after we've already been in school all day. Nerd. Or like how in my teens, I got a Ghostbuster tattoo as my first tattoo. Don't ask too many questions. That is saved for another episode, but it's a story. My second tattoo was an airbender tattoo because I figured, like Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender, once I handed in my first manuscript and published my first book, which is, and the category is, inside New York's Vogue House and Ballroom community, I was the writing equivalent of a master. And if you need any more evidence outside of those three things, you can land on the fact that I have my whole life wanted to go to Comic Con and had not gone up until recently. Things got in the way, like ex-boyfriends, a lack of funds, maybe just not thinking it was very cool for a while. But I reached this point recently where I've been sober for a little over a year now. And I decided I wanted to do things that brought me joy. And I moved into a brand new apartment not too far from Javits Center. When I was looking at this studio apartment, which is nice, I looked out of the window while the agent was sort of chit-chatting me about the building and stuff. And I asked her, I go, "Is that Javits Center there?" And she goes, "Yes, it is." And I said, "I am going to Comic Con this year." And she was like, "Okay, you do that." But what she didn't know is that I meant it, / I had a Jedi costume and was ready to go. I also have multiple lightsabers. So it was on my radar. Cut to about 2 weeks before Comic-Con, I got an email saying I'm cleared for press. And I thought to myself, let the games begin. So, fellow outliers, welcome to Outsider In, the podcast where outliers create the greater culture and where Comic-Con is the motherfucking place to be. Let's get into it. New York Comic Con 2025. I got there and I was simply not prepared for how bright, lively, and awesome it was going to be. Sensory overload. I did not know where to look. I saw Lydia Dietz in Beetlejuice with a baby Bjorn filled with a baby Beetlejuice. I saw any kind of Spider-Man you could think of, including Spider-Punk, crouched down in the Spider-Punk position. Every kind of alien from the Alien franchise. I saw anything you've ever seen on Nickelodeon, including a Quail Man from Doug. I literally almost cried. I had to run up to the guy and be like, "Awesome costume." He's like, "Thanks, man." Batman, hundreds of Wolverines. It was amazing. Waldo, like from the infamous Where's Waldo, except like hundreds of people, I feel like, dressed up like Waldo. They're all geniuses, and so they all like hid themselves like throughout the crowd. So like every other picture that I took has a Waldo in the background. My head was spinning. Once I got the lay of the land, ultimately there were some journalistic things that I wanted to get done. Interview folks, kind of get a feel for how blackness operates in spaces that are already othered. Nerds are a type of other, but then if the world's a microcosm wherever you go, there's still got to be some sort of a divide, or maybe there isn't. Maybe Comic-Con was going to be a utopia. I mean, who knows? I mean, there's spaces like ball culture where everyone's accepted, but it's very exclusive. And as a black nerd, I wanted to know. Also, queerness. How does queerness show up in a space where mostly everybody is kind of in drag, right? But mainly, what I wanted to do was ground myself in brands that I loved. The Avatar The Last Airbender exhibit. I went straight there, walked up to the line, and as soon as I walked up, the woman said, "Please come back in 15 minutes. We've hit capacity." Womp womp. I'm not a huge Trekkie. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. But I was way into Next Generation when I was a kid, so I figured I'd go to their Fleet Academy and just run through it really quick. They had botany simulations that you're trying to like see where you would be placed once you finish the Fleet Academy, unquote. So I went through all of it and I aced everything. Don't be shocked, I'm not. And I got Commander. So I was like, yay. They gave me a little Star Trek pin, which I can't wait to wear one of these Halloweens because that's a gay man's fantasy in that outfit. The panels I wanted to go to. There was one on queer comic book writers, which was in the press lounge. There was one on queer librarians and finding queer literature for kids, which is an interest of mine because I wrote a book that's sort of queer definitively, but then also I teach. But the one I was really, really psyched to go to was the Young, Gifted, and Whack panel. Basically, a blurred panel, which I had never heard that term before, but it makes sense. Black nerd, hosted by Wayne Brady. Yes, Black, recently outed as queer improv virtuoso Wayne Brady. In the meantime, I decided to go wait in line for one thing. Wasn't dressed at all, just had on regular, normal press guy clothes, and got in this line for some game called Code Vein 2. I'd never even heard of Code Vein 1, but it looked really cool because there was just a giant anime motorcycle that everybody waiting in line got to sit on. Lo and behold, right behind me was this gorgeous lady with an emerald green sort of Asian dress. So I just turned around, asked for consent, and asked her name.
Sure, Dina Tate, and my character is called The Same Glam Goddess, and it's based upon my book series that I created in honor of myself and my mother. It's called Lizzie McKenzie's Fabulous Adventures. So Lizzie McKenzie traveled the 7 continents of the world to find the 7 crystals of sisterhood. On their way, they meet new friends and form the Global Girl Squad.
I didn't want to assume, so I asked Dina if the characters in her book were black.
They're both black. And the goal was, I believe in representation. We need to see ourselves in print, digital, and every form of artwork there is. So that's really important to me.
I asked her to tell me more about her costume.
So it's green, big, and fabulous with feathers and sequin, because I love sequins, I love feathers. And also, the person that designed it was African American and a member of the LGBTQ community. So I also help to represent them as well, because my brother's gay, and I'm proud of him, and he's a drag queen, so it got elements of drag and fabulousness, so that's what I wanted to do. Big, beautiful, and fabulous.
It turned out Dina's brother was world famous drag queen Victoria Lace. Super cool. I asked Dina if she had always shown up so fabulous.
I used to show up in regular garb, but once I wrote the book, I decided to come as my character. So when people say, "Who are you?" I'll give them the spiel of what I wrote, because I think it's important. So everybody's doing their regular characters, and that's okay. But I really wanted to be the author to come outside of the book.
Dina told me that she'd been coming to Comic Con for a few years now. So I asked her, had she seen like a difference in representation over the years? Had more black folks shown up?
It seemed like it lifted up a bit when Black Panther came out, and now it's dropped back down. So that's kind of sad, because with Black Panther there was so much momentum, you saw people, but now it seems like it kind of veered off a little bit, but I hope it comes back.
And in a way, prior to speaking to Dina, I was kind of feeling what she was talking about. Like, I did feel isolated, a convention center, just crawling with folks, some of them masked, so that adds a weird element to it, but also I was dressed like a normal person off the street that day. Like I was haunting the convention center, like I was haunting Comic-Con. The ghost of press past present. Next was going to be the Young, Gifted, and Whack panel, which I was really psyched to go to just to hear more about the topic Dina and I had spoken about. But I had to try Avatar one more time. I took my picture with the motorcycle weirdos, went straight back to Avatar The Last Airbender, and the lady said, "The line is at capacity, come back in 15 minutes. I made my way up the escalator and stopped by the info desk to see where the panel was going to be. The folks at the info desk were really friendly and also Black. So I asked them if they'd seen any crazy costumes and what they've noticed about Black crowds within the conference.
I've been having fun, get a chance to meet some really great people here. They're coming from all over the world. The blob that had the dog face on it, and that looked really intricate. And then there's a Buzz Lightyear where this woman has knitted up the whole costume pretty much. And we saw one this morning. A lady said that it took about 5 months, and she just dedicated energy to that every day. Yes, more people are getting involved. I don't know if it seems like there's a disconnect socially. The people that I see that are Black, you speak to them and they're like very few kind of respond. Where, I'm glad that they're here, but I'm just noticing kind of a little disconnect.
Based on what Shane at the information desk had said, it felt maybe like I'd shown up the wrong year. Maybe I should have had the moxie to go back when Black Panther was out, according to what Dina told me. Nevertheless, I was glad I figured out a way to get there. So I thanked Shane for his words and had him point me in the direction of the line for the panel. Lines are kind of off the chain at Comic Con, but for whatever reason, I really didn't wait longer than 15 minutes for anything that I went to. Maybe because my interests are so niche, but I don't know. In line for Young, Gifted, and Whack, the Black Nerd, #blurred panel, I met a lady in a cool costume named Adrian, and I asked her about her costume and how she was enjoying Comic Con.
My name is Adrian, and I'm Rumi from K-Pop Demon Hunters.
Okay, cool. Where are you from?
I'm from Baltimore, Maryland originally.
Is this your first Comic Con?
Yes.
How's that been so far?
Very exciting. It's hard to not stop people as soon as they're walking like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So I've been here maybe less than an hour, and I've already seen Galactus, taken a picture with Godzilla, and run into Mario, Luigi, and the Mushroom Princess. So a full day already.
How has the face or the climate of Black nerdom changed over the years?
I think it's more prevalent. I went to a predominantly Black high school, and I think if you were into anime and had a silk shirt on, with the anime on it, you were going to get teased, right? But now people are a lot more open about watching the cartoons, doing the things that they love, going to the Marvel movies. So I think we're out and loud and proud now.
Is that what kind of gets you into coming for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the area for a while, right? So why not come to one of the biggest events where you're going to see a gathering of all sorts of people? I'm going to the panel for what's up next in Marvel and also the Mortal Kombat 2 premiere.
Then we went to the Young, Gifted, and Whack panel. That panel was mad cool. Moderated by Wayne Brady, it had a lineup of Black nerds. Tony Weaver Jr., who is the author of the graphic novel Weirdo, has a whole organization about being a Black oddball. Asia Simone, who's an illustrator for Marvel's Moon Girl, among other things. DMC himself from Run DMC, a notorious comic book nerd, and Maurice Brodus, who's written for Black Panther comics from Marvel, and who's also a school librarian. Super cool. Wayne started by talking about the stigma that being a blurred has when you're growing up in the Black community. And not even just in the Black community, but at large. People trying to pigeonhole you to playing a certain kind of thing or not playing at all.
Maybe I wanted to be able to be afforded the same joy as some of the kids that I went to school with. And I couldn't put two and two together why it was okay for some of my white peers to love D&D, to love these things. But then when a brother says, oh, I want to play, everyone goes, why would you, don't you like basketball? I mean, the truth is, yeah. But why can't I play D&D?
Word. nerd, as if they'd been reading my journals from 4th grade. And then, ladies and gentlemen, Daryl DMC McDaniels.
I'm the king, I'm the king, I'm the king, I'm the king, I'm the king of rock. There is none higher. Sucker MCs should call me sire. To burn my kingdom, you must choose fire. I won't stop rocking till I retire.
That just made me so happy.
Wayne Brady asked the panel what was their first touch point with nerddom, or fandom, or anime, or comics. DMC said where he grew up, it wasn't cool to love Captain America.
And I go, Captain America's my favorite guy. That's the white people shit.
But he didn't care because that's the guy he loved. He also pointed out that Iron Man, Spider-Man, Hulk all had superpowers and or technology, but first and foremost, they were nerds. Then Tony Weaver chimed in about his first touch point with nerddom.
Let me set the scene for you. Atlanta, Georgia, early 2000s. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm asleep. My TV is on. I fell asleep watching the television. I then turned it off, and a show called Inuyasha had just ended. And right after that show, Adult Swim put on this anime called Eureka 7 about this awkward 14-year-old boy who goes on an adventure with this cute girl that crashes through his roof in a giant robot. I was young and awkward and wanted nothing more than for a cute girl to crash through a giant robot and take me far away from this city of haters. It was the first time that I paid attention to who wrote a show afterwards. I paid really close attention to the credits, and I told myself, if it's a person's job to make somebody feel the way that I just felt, that is what I would like to spend my life doing.
Enter K-pop Demon Hunters.
In this convention center, if you walk around any artist alley table, you will find more prints of Huntrix than you will any black character that has been released in the last 10 years. So when the artists at this convention said, what is going to sell? When they looked back, when they looked back and they were like, what are people going to buy? What is this community going to buy? You will find more people cosplaying as one of the Saja boys that don't even have lines than any black character from the last 20 years. You will find more Abby Sajas in this convention center than you will a Miles Morales. And for Miles Morales to even exist, they have to put him next to Peter Parker and a white woman. The bar for creating a black character that someone will actually care about and that someone will actually invest in is ridiculously high. And frankly, I don't know how that obstacle is overcome.
Then illustrator Asia Simone spoke up about actually finding huge representation of femininity in anime.
I was so not used to seeing people that look like me, like us, in stories, that even when I started to think of my own stories, I could not imagine myself in them. And so, like, I said, it sounds really dramatic, it sounds silly, but I used to say, like, I used to daydream in white people. Like, I just could not be imaginative while seeing black people in the same space. And it took a while for me to fully recognize that. So that had to be an active decision. While I didn't see myself in anime, what I did get out of anime was the availability of femininity.
What hit me the hardest was how familiar everything was. Pretty much everything the blurred panel said was something I related to. The bending, the adapting, the hiding, the surviving. I wasn't just listening, I was hearing versions of myself. I felt seen. Let's take a break.
My name is Bria, and I'm Miracle from My Hero Academia. My first convention was AWA in Atlanta, December 2024.
Where are you from?
I'm from North Carolina. A lot of the cons I go to are kind of small and local, so I really enjoy like traveling and going out of town and seeing all the amazing cosplays and just talking to cool people like you. Once upon a time, it was kind of embarrassing to be a nerd or a blurred per se, but I feel like now people are welcoming nerds and just people being able to be themselves. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Betty Cosplay Diaries.
Now, next thing for next year is geeknik, like freaknik, but geeknik. It's becoming more acceptable. It's becoming as if they wanted to kind of build off of us. Like I do BlurCon. BlurCon, you know, is one of the first black Comic Cons. It's ran by Hilton George. And so, like, me and him is pretty close. So I actually get to talk to him about the behind the scenes stuff like that. He talked about how, like, if one black con fails, they all fail. And so it shows if one does bad, you want to use that one bad example for everybody. He actually helped with DreamCon people. He advised them on things they could do. And so, like, he wants to make sure that the black nerdom is able to expand. He wants to make sure that we are not looked at as if we are a token. That's one thing, we are being seen as a token. We're being used as just a way to make money off of us. And that's something that we need to move out of, is because especially with black nerds, we've been judged the most. And so with white people, when they did it, they was able okay to do it. But then like when we did it, it's like black people like, what is that, cartoons? I still get judged now, and like people I work with, because they don't understand it. They know I do stuff like this, but they don't understand it really. So it's just welcoming to have a con environment like this to actually be able to myself. Show those black con support. We show the white cons like New York Comic Con support. It's okay to be here, but we want to go somewhere to support your own people. Yeah. On most social media is PopTech, POPTECH. I do my con reviews on there, and I'll ask people what their views are on the cons, so that way they can get their voice out. Like you do. I gotta thank you for this. Like, we need more people like this.
That was Brianna and Quentin, cosplayers I met going to the drag queen panel. They were super cool, Southern, and actually from the town next to where I grew up, Greensboro, North Carolina. They pointed out some stuff I didn't even think about before, which was black cons. It never occurred to me that there would be all black cons, but of course there would be. In art, in culture, in life. If people have a need, it will be answered. So shout out to BlurredCon. After speaking to the two of them, I went straight to the Pride Lounge, where I was going to go to a drag queen panel about the intersections of drag, hosted by the one, the only, New York's icon, Peppermint.
Who loves drag? I know I do.
I scream, you scream, we all scream for drag queens. The drag panel hosted by Peppermint was one of the highlights of the whole weekend. It was comprised of drag queens, famous ones from RuPaul's Drag Race and other shows. Tammy Brown, Blackberry, who was on Dragula, Peppermint, Drag Race alum Yahuwah Hamasaki, and Megami.
I literally started drag by coming to New York Comic Con. Literally, I started coming here in 2008, which I'm sure is before some of the people in this room were born.
Wait, was it anybody born, not born? Is anybody born after 2008? Be honest. We're gonna find you.
Specifically, I am an X-Men faggot. And I have done Jean Grey, Phoenix, Dark Phoenix, Madeline Pryor. So, like, I love that one character specifically. But also, like, I've done Rogue and clearly Scarlet Witch. So, like, the Marvel girls were, like, always like, oh my god, that's the image of beauty. That is the most beautiful woman in the world. And I just want to dress up like that and pretend I have superpowers, please.
All the dolls are dressed for the gods. Megami was dressed like Scarlet Witch. Tammy Brown wore a giant orange and green pumpkin ensemble that looked something like she crafted it from Michaels, which I think was the point, with a short little bob wig. Peppermint was dressed in all black and leathers, as was Blackberry. Then Tammy Brown shared her influences.
I liked that Batman movie, and I just loved Jack Nicholson. I thought he was just the ultimate queer Joker. And I really like Grace Jones and Josephine Baker. And I like her little banana dance. And every time I think of Paris, France, I think of Josephine Baker. How about that?
Then it got super interesting, because the queen started talking about the post-show dysphoria they got from being on reality shows like Drag Race and Dragula.
Everybody here competed on a drag competition show. What have been the side effects, good, bad, and that's what the question says. What have been the impacts, good or bad?
Well, I would say it's an exploitation thing.
That's right.
Big time exploitation. And it's just typical Hollywood. And I would say World of Wonder's not a pretty company. And,
drag them.
And Mama Roo isn't really nice. Fraculator. She's a studio artist, so let's get with the program. And I would say that World of Wonder's a exploitation. Is it not? I mean, it's the truth.
Reality TV in general is exploitative just off the bat, because part of the reason why there's so many reality reality programs is because it's virtually free for them to make.
Megami stepped in with a little bit of course correction.
I still want to be on All Star, so I love RuPaul. Rules of Wonder is just the greatest. Yeah. Please.
Yeah, so with Dracula, obviously, fat phobia, transphobia, colorism, racism, like even just like the announcement of me being on the season, racism, instant fat phobia, and it's something that you're not mentally prepared for, and you're like kind of caught off guard. You're like, Jesus, I'm just like living, and you're calling me all the kind of crazy names. Going through all of that opened so many amazing doors to do things like this.
The tea was being dished. We were talking politics and personality. I was really starting to feel at home. Peppermint started fielding questions from the audience. The first question: what do we do in these politically charged times?
Register to vote. Vote in local and state elections. Hold people that you know accountable for not voting.
There is a sense of McCarthyism and a big sense of things that are going on, and we need to be vigilant and fight back. I'm from Texas, and I see what's going on there, and I have family members that are totally supportive of what's going on, and it's scary. Speak out about it and not be afraid.
Literally just us waking up in the morning and putting on drag and stepping out of our door is a political statement right now. Really, they were going after trans people, using drag queens as an excuse. And, it's just gotten worse and worse. And I think the most important thing is always to remember that we are stronger together as a community. That's why it's the queer community. So, just keep showing up for each other, because that's how we're going to get through this, is together.
Then perhaps my favorite question of all of Comic-Con. Pretend you're running for president, drag queen, and tell us why we should vote for you.
Right, let's try it.
I don't think you should vote for me because I just want to lay down. I'm just kidding. You should vote for me because I know diversity, inclusivity, because I've been separated from the majority of the group for the most of my life, so I know what it feels to be different. I don't know too much with numbers or business plans, but you can hire that.
Vote for me. I'm amazing. I love liquor. I can't read to your children, but I can valet a car without looking in the rearview mirror. So, yeah. And I pay my taxes.
Delegate the rest.
That's a great question.
Then, my first interview, Miss Dina Tate, sister to iconic drag queen Victoria Lace, stood up to ask one of the last questions.
Ally to him, I love my brother so much, but how can people become more of a better ally, not just saying, oh, I have a gay brother? What can we do more?
I would say, specifically, first start with asking Victoria Lace, hello, darling. Beyond that, I think the most useful thing for drag performers is just making sure that we have access to resources, because we just don't have access to financial protection, the same institutional protection as other people. And go to the local LGBT shelter in your neighborhood. Figure out a way to make sure that there's a makeup tutorial at the homeless shelter for trans women, things like that.
And that was my first full day at the Comic-Con 2025 New York City. I felt elated when I left. Like the full circle moment of Dina, the first person I chose to talk to, a Black woman with a queer brother, famous drag queen, showed up at the last panel of my day. The one where we laughed and coordinated intellectual resources in terms of getting through these hard times together as a queer community. The Young Gifted at Whack panel where I felt like they were speaking directly to my childhood and my experience in the moment at Comic-Con, feeling initially a little isolated, but after talking to more people like me, finding a spot. It was a really, really, really good first day. Still didn't go to Avatar: The Last Airbender yet, but the next day, I would be coming back as my alter ego, Jedi Master Tuck Verino. And now it's time for the part of the show that we call House of Ultraviolet Walks, a segment in which we herald literary icons and legends in the ballroom community. Today, we celebrate the incredible documentarian photographer Gerard H. Gaskin. Gerard's breakthrough book, Legendary, is a bright and explosive look at ballroom in action, active, kinetic, gorgeous photography. The in-between sections, folks traveling on their way in cabs, on trains, applying makeup, plenty of icons. Dominique Jackson of Pose fame, Octavia Saint Laurent, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. Made by Duke University Press, this book is a gorgeous artifact and, like my book, a love letter to ball culture. It is the graphic novel, if you will, that ball culture deserves. You can find all of his work at GerardHGaskinPhoto.com. Gerard, thank you for your contribution, and thank you for walking legendary literary realness. Let's get back to the show.
To get a sneak peek of the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art, which opens in Los Angeles next year. It is my honor to introduce our panel's moderator and poster collector, an Academy Award-winning director and one of the most influential filmmakers working today, Mr. Martin Scorsese.
Holy! Martin Scorsese! Yeah!
Thank you. This is my first time at Comic Con. I'm actually very honored to be here today to talk about the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art. Together, co-founded by my good friends George, Lucas, and Melody Hobson.
Unlike the guy sitting next to me, I'd read the panel information for the last day of Comic-Con and knew, dressed as a Jedi, that I was very much looking forward to going to the Lucas Museum panel, moderated by director and screen legend Martin Scorsese. My wig was not snatched, although it was super cool. It perfectly fit the theme of my last day, and later I'd be going to the George Tekai talk, Comic-Con, the final frontier.
The museum that we're trying to build here is one that you can take the whole family to.
George and I were passionate about creating a museum of narrative art because we both believe very strongly that societies are held together by stories. People with different interests, different ages, different backgrounds can be inspired. I think there is literally something for everyone.
George Lucas has been collecting narrative art for more than 50 years. The founding collection represents more than 40,000 works by illustrators who have created images that give our society a shared set of beliefs. Shared beliefs create community. Opposing beliefs create chaos.
Large-scale graffiti and public installation artist JR was there on the panel speaking with Martin Scorsese. His work tends to feature large portraits of people in the community and public art and its interaction with the population.
I feel that, the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art is almost like AI arriving into the world of museum and coming and disrupting. This is, how much it's gonna create an electroshock to that world.
Well, George has always said that he's wanting to focus on celebrating illustrators, and in so doing out, bring in people who don't normally go to museums or normally can't get to a museum because the people's art. And what do those differences mean to you?
Well, to me, you have to understand that since the beginning, I've always put my art in the street. So when people don't like it, they can pee on it or scratch it down. That's what they do. Yeah, exactly. So I have no ego there. It's actually a direct communication with my audience. The beauty of catching people when they don't expect it, they might remember it for the rest of their life. And I feel this is a place that George and Melody are creating that is inviting for that, where we will be surprised. You think you're walking in a museum and you're walking into thousands of stories, thousands of storytelling, and that's such an incredible thing that we do need in this society that is so polarized.
And that panel was a wrap. I had about 30 minutes to kill before it was time to go to George Tekai. So I grabbed 3 Lucas Museum posters, for myself and for posterity. And I made my way down to the main exhibition hall, where I prayed I'd finally get into the Avatar: The Last Airbender exhibition. And bingo. Took pictures with Appa and Momo. Finally, all was in. So I figured, let's go down to the Jedi meditation room, see what that's all about. I walked downstairs, took a picture in front of the step and repeat. And when I walked into the tent where there was supposed to be Jedi meditation, I only saw a case of Red Bulls and folks changing out of their costumes, which made me blush and pivot on the spot and leave. That part was a little bit disappointing. But on my way out, there was this little nerdy kid who was just kind of standing adrift like I had been at the beginning of the convention. And something told me to just ignite my lightsaber and see what happened. There's nothing better when two nerds meet somewhere on the spectrum, aka the basement level of Comic Con. And I clashed swords for about 30 seconds, like I was a little kid, like he was doing what he was there to do, have a blast with people like himself. And I realized that it took a kid with a plastic sword to remind me why I came. Not to observe, not to necessarily interview people, but to belong. And in that moment, I helped that kid belong. It was a really, really great moment.
My name is Nyla, and I am Scarlet Witch as her Halloween costume from the 70s, I think, from WandaVision. I'm really enjoying it. I'm here with my friends, but we all kind of split off with each other, and I actually was freaking out because I saw that they had a Little Shop panel, so that was the one that I just left from, and I got to see Alan Menken and get a picture with Major Attaway. I'm a music student, but I have a lot of roots in musical theater, so. Yeah, I have. I feel like a lot of people of color, especially black people, typically think that it's not their scene, or they don't think that it's something that they'll be welcomed into. But I think that over the years it has changed, just with the way that especially Gen Z has been more accepting, and so people just don't care as much. But my family's always been Marvel nerds, so I've always been in this. On Instagram, it's Nylah, Nailah, and then Joppa, Jappah.
My name's Andrew. I'm from New York. No, I've been coming since 2017.
And how has nerddom changed over the years?
Nerddom? Yeah. Well, they come in all shapes, sizes. You can be the hoodies of the hood, but when you come here, you turn into something else.
That's beautiful.
And then the piece de resistance, my keynote speaker, George, the iconically gay, Tekai.
From about the time I was 9 years old, I knew I was different. I am Japanese American, so I was already different in an obvious way. But then came this growing realization that I had another. I felt so alone. But I threw myself into school, into service, into acting, and I found a whole world to connect with. I became an activist on almost all other issues: civil rights, the peace movement during the Vietnam War, except the one issue that was so personal to me.
Ladies and gentlemen,
isn't it grand being in New York City at the Javits Convention Center? Probably, I would venture to say, the biggest, densest, and most enthusiastic Star Trek convention ever.
Now, George, I know you've done a lot of Star Trek conventions, but I have to say, I think you're mistaken. In this room, this is a George Tekai convention.
George's talk was really grounding, especially after all the hubbubaloo and, the lightsabers and the Wolverine costumes and the bright, flashy colors of Comic Con. It really just helped me get centered, thinking about the core profundities, responsibilities, and precious POVs of being an other in whatever capacity. He talked about his family having to go to Japanese internment camps in the 40s. That definitely stayed with me.
It was a prison. We had no radio, no newspapers, no movies, no connection with the outside world. And so when the war was over, we were freed.
And apropos of Star Trek's whole vibe, the hope of the future, George Takei talked about Zoran Mamdani.
And that's something exciting that I'm eagerly waiting to see resolved. Get that election over with and get on with finding a new mayoral leadership in the greatest city in America and in the world.
You heard it here first, folks.
And he talked about being a young actor and the day he canvassed and got to meet the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He shook his hand.
I'm not washing my hands. And it didn't get washed for 3 days.
And then he talked about Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, and his philosophy behind diversity and representation in the show.
IDIC, infinite diversity in infinite combinations. And that was not just in the physical diversity. Michelle Nichols, who was African American, she was more than just African American. She was obviously of African ancestry. The white part was French ancestry, but another part of her ancestry was American Indian, Cherokee. She was the most American one of us all.
Being quietly outed on set of Star Trek.
Both Walter and Michelle sensed that I was gay, and that sent chills down my back because they knew.
This was an extra you're talking about.
An extra. We had a great build, except that I couldn't see him because my back was toward the door that they were coming in. And Walter suddenly started going. I thought something was wrong with Walter, but I finally got it. He didn't want me to turn around. So I turned around, and my heart, he was stunningly good looking. And then it dawned on me, it was Walter that told me to turn around. He knows.
In the day after the notorious kiss between William Shatner and Nichelle Nichols' characters on Star Trek aired across America, George Takei got up the gumption to ask Gene Roddenberry if he'd ever have two men kiss on screen.
However, he said, this is television. We almost got canceled with one show that we made in which we have a white man kissing a black woman and the ratings. And if I have another show like that episode, please understand that's something we can't do until America starts changing. And as a gay man, I understood what he was talking about.
No matter who you were in that room, you understood what Roddenberry was talking about, what George was talking about. Even in sci-fi futuristic scenarios, progress can never be the progress we deserve or want or need. So, as we sit on the edge of our seats waiting for that pendulum of justice to swing back in the right direction, we have to prop up and lean on each other for support. In that convention of thousands of people and all the panels I went to, the blurreds, the queens, the nerds, I came in feeling adrift and left my very first Comic-Con feeling homesick. Thank you for listening to Outsider In. Please leave comments, follow us, give us a rating, let us know what you think. This is a very special episode. I hope to do more like this in the future. And next week, we will return to form talking to Colin Bedell, one of my favorite people on Earth, and the person who runs Queer Cosmos, in-depth astrology from a queer lens. He's going to talk a little bit about my chart, what it was like going to school in New York City, and how we might be returning to that wonderful, artistic, culturally diverse, and celebratory space with the election of Zohran Mamdani, what that means, and how New York is overdue for another renaissance. Until then, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.